Imagine consistently outsmarting the same faces at your ClubGG table, turning those familiar patterns into predictable profits. Today, we're not just skimming, we're diving deep, really unpacking the ultimate playbook for ClubGG. We're dissecting expert strategies to give you, well, a genuine shortcut to maximizing your edge. We've poured over an expert guide. It's titled Top 5 Winning Tips to Maximize Profits on Poker ClubGG. And our mission, really, is to pull out the most potent, actionable nuggets so you can apply them directly to your game.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is that these tips for ClubGG are super relevant right now because it's a unique platform. You know, it's club-based. You're not just playing against a huge anonymous pool. You're joining private clubs, often playing the same people again and again.
Yeah, so that familiarity changes everything.
Completely. It shifts the whole dynamic. Your edge doesn't just come from, like, pure game theory. It becomes more about observation, long-term strategy. Your profits often boil down to specific, repeatable things. Better table selection, smarter seat choices, using those built-in tools correctly, and crucially, having good review habits. They really compound over time. And of course, like our source mentions, you always got to keep fair play in mind, understand the rules, play fair.
So it's not just random tables then. You're not constantly guessing. You might see the same usernames, the same avatars, session after session.
Exactly. You often do.
That totally shifts how you'd approach it, doesn't it? It feels less like this anonymous online grind and maybe more like a high-stakes home game where you actually get to know people's tendencies.
Precisely. You've nailed the core difference there. Unlike totally anonymous play, ClubGG really rewards that observational, almost detective-like approach over the long haul. It's about building that consistent edge against players you start to understand, maybe even anticipate. Our source points to 5 key areas where you can really cultivate that edge, turn those repeat encounters into a real advantage. It becomes less about just the cards, more about the players.
Okay, building on that idea then, recognizing opponents. Our source says ClubGG gives you a tool for that right there, the Smart HUD. But like knowing it exists and actually using it the right way, as the guide says.
Yeah.
Those are different things, right? Especially since, third-party trackers are usually a no-no on GG Network. So what is Smart HUD and how do you use it properly for an edge without breaking the rules?
Right. That's a really crucial distinction. Smart HUD, the heads-up display, is a great built-in feature. It tracks hands you've played against each opponent at your table, shows their basic stats like VPIP, PFR, tendencies, right there on the screen. But here's the right way bit. You have to treat it like a temperature gauge, a starting point.
Okay, not the absolute truth then.
Exactly. Don't just take the numbers as gospel. You need to back them up, confirm those initial reads with your own notes, your observations, and what you see at showdown. Think of it as foundational info, but definitely not the whole story about that player. It's like a first impression you need to verify and deepen.
So it's not just about the data points. It's about adding your own layer of context, your human read on why the numbers look that way. That sounds, much richer.
Precisely. And our source gives some really practical steps, like after any showdown, make a quick note. What did they show? How did they bet? Sizing tells, things like that. That gives you way more context than just the HUD stats alone. For example, say you notice someone's on a heater, winning a lot, playing confidently.
Right, they feel invincible.
Yeah. So you might expect them to call wider. That's your signal to maybe value bet thinner. Bet with good hands, not just the nuts, because you figure they'll call with worse.
Ah, interesting. So you adjust your bet sizing based on their perceived confidence, not just your hand strengths.
Exactly. And conversely, if someone seems ice cold, maybe they're running bad, tightening up.
Frustrated, maybe playing scared money.
Could be. That's when you might apply pressure on turn cards that add equity to your hand. Like if you pick up a flush draw or a straight draw, they might be looking for a reason to fold. Your bet can give them that reason, even if they have a decent hand. And it's super important, like you said, third-party tools that make decisions for you, not allowed on GG Network. So stick to the Smart HUD, your own notes. Keep it fair, keep it within the rules. It's about combining the tech with your own brain power, right? That's how you get the edge while staying compliant.
Okay, moving on. Tip 2 really caught my eye. Win the seat before the pot. That sounds almost like you're winning before the cards are even dealt. Can you break that down? How does that change your thinking before you even click join table, especially in these club games?
Oh, absolutely. This is where that long-term observation really pays off big time. Seat choice. Honestly, it's often worth more than pulling off some tricky river bluff catch. And here's why. Being consistently in position against weaker players, that builds a huge, less swingy edge over hundreds, thousands of hands, much more than one hero call. It's pure structural advantage. long-term equity.
Wow, okay. More valuable than a tricky river call.
Yeah, especially in clubs where you see the same folks often. Being proactive about where you sit is just fundamental. The goal, simple. Sit so you act after the loosest, most active player. That gives you the final say in big pots. And, it lets you play more hands against the weakest ranges at the table.
That makes total sense. But is it always the top priority? Could focusing too much on the perfect seat mean you miss out on a generally good game? Or is it almost non-negotiable?
It's almost always a top priority in these club formats. I mean, don't obsess to the point you never sit down, but yeah, it's huge. If you can choose your seat, you absolutely should. Our guide gives a pretty straightforward checklist for this. First, look for tables where, say, 3 or more players are seeing flops regularly and showing down pretty weak hands, like top pair, weak kicker, or second pair. Juicy games.
Okay, signs of loose, passive action.
Exactly. Second, always try to get position on the splashy player. You know the type plays lots of hands, bets and raises a lot, maybe overplays things. Sitting to their left, gold. You see what they do before you have to act, massive advantage. And crucially, don't be afraid to get up and move. If your table dries up, get super tight.
Players get nitty.
Yeah, the club system usually lets you hop tables. Find a better spot. Don't just click sit now, randomly. Be strategic right from the jump. Set yourself up for success. It's a real mindset shift.
Okay, that covers reacting to the table. But what about setting ourselves up proactively with our own game? Tip 3, build a preflop baseline. Then exploit. Sounds like you need 2 gears. A default plan, and then the ability to shift. How do you actually balance that? Having a solid default, but also needing to adapt constantly to exploit people you know in these clubs feels tricky.
It is. It's definitely a dance, like you say. Between being solid and being adaptive, finding that balance is crucial for long-term winning. Think of the solid default pre-flop baseline as your anchor. It protects you against good players, makes you harder to play against, but it also leaves room to deviate, to exploit those common leaks you will see in a familiar pool. You need that robust default, your safety net, but gotta be ready to step outside it based on who's at the table and what they're doing wrong.
Can you maybe sketch out that baseline? Like, what's the default rock-solid pre-flop approach look like before we even think about exploits?
Sure, generally your default should be open tighter in early position. Raise fewer hands when you act first. Protects you when you're likely out of position post-flop. Then, as you get closer to the button, you can gradually open up, add more hands. Suited aces, Broadway-suited connectors like king-queen suited, jack-10 suited, maybe some more pairs. You're using that positional advantage. Now, 3-betting, re-raising pre-flop. From early position, mostly for value, big pairs, ace-king, hands you want to build a pot with. But from late position, you can widen that 3-bet range. Mix in some bluffs or semi-bluffs, especially if you can isolate someone you think might fold, put pressure on, and a really key leak to avoid, over-limping. Just calling the big blind after others have limped. Only do it if, like, several people are already in and your hand plays well multi-way. Small suited connectors, small pairs maybe. Otherwise, just calling is usually passive and weak. Avoid it with marginal stuff.
Okay, that paints a clear picture of the foundation. Solid. Now, where does the exploit gear kick in? How do we use that baseline to actually punish the mistakes we see from familiar faces?
Right, this is where the real money's made, and where your notes and the HUD data come together. For instance, you see players over-limping constantly, just calling way too much pre-flop.
Yeah, happens all the time in some games.
So you start raising more from the button with playable suited hands, isolate them, build a pot heads up where you likely have an edge against their weak range, or say someone never folds to a 3-bet, they just call.
Stubborn player.
Yeah, well then shift your 3-bet range to be super value heavy. Just hammer them with your premiums aces, kings, ace-king, get the money in good. And another common one, if the table folds way too much to continuation bets on the flop. You can use smaller bet sizes with your whole range on the flop, make it cheaper for you, then be ready to barrel turns that improve your equity. Fire again on the turn, especially if the card helps your range or gives you more outs. See? It gives you that strong framework, lets you play confidently, but you're always watching, ready to pounce when you spot those specific weaknesses. Flexible, observant, adaptive.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Our sources mentioned some clubs have these unique formats. Tip 4 is mastering short stack formats like all-in or fold. Sounds like it strips away a lot of the post-flop game, right? Just pre-flop decisions. But isn't that just like a glorified coin flip then? Or is there more depth than meets the eye?
That's a great question. And yeah, it's a common thought. These formats, all-in or fold, they do remove most post-flop play, simplifies things on the surface, but it doesn't make it a coin flip. Actually, it makes the preflop decisions everything. The edges there become absolutely critical. They often decide who wins and loses. It basically shifts the whole battleground to precise range construction and calculation. Who knows the math better? The key is studying push and call thresholds by seat, knowing exactly which hands to shove with and which hands to call a shove with, based on your position and everyone's stack size. You'd start with position-based charts, for sure. But critically, you need notes on how your specific pool deviates from that optimal theory.
Ah, okay. Theory is the map, but your notes tell you where the actual roadblocks and shortcuts are in your games.
Perfectly put. Theory's the guide, but your opponents give you the exploitable tells.
So it demands incredible precision preflop, like being a sniper.
Yeah.
What are the practical takeaways for mastering these intense, quick-fire preflop decisions?
Exactly. Precision is key. Our guide suggests three main things. First, pre-decide your ranges for each position. Before you even play, know exactly what you're shoving and calling with from UTG, the button, everywhere. Write it down if you have to. This stops you from letting recent results mess with your head. You make unemotional, math-based decisions.
Stick to the plan no matter what.
Right. Second, favor hands that dominate the common shoves in your pool. Don't just pick hands that look pretty, like suited connectors that can easily get counterfeited on the board. Think about what they are likely shoving. If they shove any ace, ace-king becomes the monster. If they shove any two suited cards, big pairs are even better. Find hands that have good equity against their specific ranges. And finally, track your outcomes by seat. See where you're winning and losing. This helps you refine those push-call thresholds specifically for the games you play in. It turns what looks simple into this really nuanced tactical fight where preparation is just huge.
Okay, last tip, and maybe the most important for long-term growth. Our source stresses. Run a fast review loop after every session. Sounds like the secret sauce, especially when you see the same players over and over. But let's be real, review can feel like homework. How do you make it less of a chore and more of a, well, a genuine power-up for your game?
That's a great way to think about it, a power-up. Because club pools recycle opponents, right? So a simple, consistent note and review habit. It's genuinely a superpower. Those reads just compound. Every session, you learn a bit more, get deeper insights into tendencies, weaknesses. It's the ultimate long game edge. And yeah, it makes review feel like part of winning, not homework, because you see the results build up.
Okay, I'm sold on the why. But what about the how? What does this fast review loop actually involve? How do we make it quick and effective? Something you can actually stick to after a grind.
Our guide recommends a quick 3-step process right after you finish playing, designed to be high-impact, low-hassle. First, save 3 hands that felt tricky or close or just difficult, where you weren't totally sure what to do. It doesn't matter if you won or lost. Focus on the decision point.
The tough spots, got it.
Second, for each of those hands, just write one sentence. What did you think would happen next? What was your prediction for the next street? Did you think they'd fold to your bet? Call with a draw. Forces you to articulate your read.
Makes your thinking explicit.
Oh. Third, add a quick note on each frequent opponent you played against. Look for sizing patterns. Do they always bet big with monsters? Small with draws? And look for timing tells. Did they snap check? Tank before bluffing? Little behavioral stuff.
Ah, the subtle clues.
Exactly. Then, the crucial step, before your next session, quickly combine those manual notes with the Smart HUD summaries. Suddenly, you have this powerful, personalized learning system. It builds on itself. It's not just about finding mistakes. It's systematically building this knowledge base that gives you that exponential edge session after session. It's how raw experience turns into refined winning skill. So if we tie it all together, winning consistently on ClubGG, it's really not about some single magic bullet. It's about the steady application of smart seat selection, having those clear but flexible preflop plans, executing precisely in those short stack games when they come up. And, maybe most importantly, maintaining that tight review loop. Constantly turning what you see into edges you can actually use. They all work together, They compound in that familiar player environment.
So much actionable stuff there. What really stands out to you listening right now from this deep dive? Which one of these strategies are you going to maybe look at first after this, knowing how fast those insights can build up on ClubGG? Is it maybe reading opponent's emotional state, adjusting value bets, or that methodical precision needed for all-in or fold? Whatever it is, the path to maximizing your profit seems, well, a lot clearer now, doesn't it?